welcome to CEC Gurukul lecture, and in this series the first lecture is on classical approach. Sociology of work is a branch of sociology which is almost kind of a very new branching of the discipline. Most of the time it was a part of industrial sociology, and sociology of work is now as an optional paper offered in most undergraduate and postgraduate studies. It is emerging as an important branching area of study because of the high level of change which we are witnessing all around us, with new forms of work, change in work-life balance, and new structures of relations. But before we actually go into understanding the contemporary society, it is important to understand the classical approach or thinkers who have helped us to make sense of work and industry. And in today's lecture, I will discuss about Karl Marx, understanding of capitalism, the class theory, his theory of value, alienation, and how he kind of makes sense of the capitalist and capitalism. So we'll try to focus when we look into Karl Marx. We see Karl Marx's theory was a dialectical materialism, where he tried to focus on the changes which was taken in economy, which led to the explanation of social change. And he is also known as a conflict theory. His theory of class, which is a theory of antagonism or conflict between the working class and the capitalist class, or in many languages we use the haves and have-nots. So the capitalist, or those who are the owners of means of productions, are called haves, and those who are denied are called as the have-nots. We also use the term bourgeois and proletariat. And his theory was that when there is a kind of increase in the level of conflict between the two classes, and there would be emergence of a class consciousness. So the working class would become conscious of the reality of the fact that their wages are being appropriated, that they are not getting the exact return in terms of the amount of labor they are producing. So this class consciousness, Karl Marx argued, that would lead to a revolution, and the revolution would finally lead to a classless society, which is he termed as socialism. The Karl Marx theory has been critiqued as an utopian ideology, and with the kind of failure of the socialism and the emergence of capitalism, or a fast rate growth of capitalism, his theory they kind of get subjects to critique. But before we go into the critique, let us try to understand his theory. So his theory of capitalism explains the significance of productive activities, or what we can say is the economic activities. So productive activities, he found, was something that differentiated human beings from these animals, and that is why because human beings had the capacity to produce, they could have realized their goals, they could have achieved and they could progress. So because of the capacity to produce, the human society were capable of improving. But then he says that this idea of free capacity to produce was curtailed by the capitalists, because they kind of restricted the human capacity and did not allow everyone to use that capacity equally. It was only those who had the purchasing capacity would actually use the process of production. And therefore, for Marx, capitalism distorts the very feature of productive activity. Its distortion creates conflict, and this conflict would obviously lead to the decline of capitalism and the development of a communist society. Most important concept in understanding Karl Marx theory of work and industry is to understand commodity, because in his theory of capitalism, he says commodity is one of the most important characteristic, because commodity was there for purpose of sale and purchase, and it was because of the sale and purchase that a value was attached to commodity. And therefore he will be talking about two types of value, the use value and the exchange value. So commodities could be anything which has a capacity to satisfy human need. Any product, for example, say bread, shoes, clothing, n number of commodity which we are all required for survival and subsistence existence. So in addition to this, he said a commodity can be looked at from two different points of view, and that is the commodity has two types of value. One is the use value and the second is the exchange value. The use value of the commodity implies that it has a kind of a quality of a commodity which would satisfy human needs. So every commodity has its specific function, and that value would be established by looking at the specific function that the commodity performs. So when we look into the use value is utility. So it is the usefulness of the commodity. How useful is the commodity for survival, or for how necessary it is for existence. When we talk about exchange value, it brings in comparison. Exchange, because a good had to be exchanged in the market for with money. So the two commodity, the value will differ because it has to be compared. Say one brand product has a higher price than the other brand, and on what ground it is higher? It is based on the comparison of material use, the production process, and many other factors. So exchange value is basically the comparison of two or more commodity which are available in the market for exchange. Now when we look into the value of the commodity, and here we look into the features of the value, we see the use value has a specific social function. So food is necessary for kind of providing people nutrition. It is to avoid kind of satisfies your hunger. Then this value cannot be transferred. What food can do cannot be done by another commodity. So the commodity it has a specific and a unique function. Now when we look into the value, the use value, or we say the utility of that commodity, depends on the kind of service that it is rendering, how useful it is. So is it something which is meeting the basic necessity, or is it a luxury, and so on and so forth. When we look into the exchange value will emerge only when the commodity is placed in the market. So the market is important. So if we talk about earlier society, say primitive or ancient society, commodity had more use value. With the coming of the market, every commodity started having a exchange value, and therefore for Karl Marx, this exchange value is something which is part of capitalist society only, and it kind of consists of exchanging one commodity with another, and money is the medium of exchange. So when we look into the capitalist society, for Karl Marx, the exchange value dominates. So Marx argues that when exchange value becomes dominant, two things happen. So we know that the use value is of less significance, and exchange value is actually what determines the value of the product. So what happens when exchange value is given extra weightage? Number one, all social relation between persons take the form of economic transaction. So every relation is kind of equated with an economic value, and social relations are therefore reduced to the utility of exchange alone. Number two, exchange value becomes the only determinant value and comes to shape all relations. So therefore what he means is that human beings are also attached as a value. That is, human beings becomes a commodity. It's a commodification of human labor, because the amount of work that particular human being is being attached a particular value to it. So human beings becomes valuable, or human becomes like a commodity when they start selling their labor. So you start selling your labor for exchange of a wage. So human labor has an exchange value, and that exchange value is the wage that he gets. Then we talk about labor's theory of value. Marx was impressed by Adam Smith and David Ricardo's theory of value, and for them the value of a commodity was created in the labor, and value interest in commodity as a thing or substance by virtue of labor applied to it. So here he said that the value of the commodity would be equal to the value of the labor, and that was the theory of value. But in capitalist society, and that's what Marx points out, the two are not always same. And he claims that labor is not only exchange value to the commodity, there is also kind of looking into how value is transformed into exchange value. So he also rejected the view that only one kind of labor is embodied in commodity, and insisted that they are two elements of dual character. So he kind of talks about the labor not only has a one value, but there can be multiple types of value that the labor can have. So the types of labor that work can have is useful and abstract. Now, what does it mean by useful labor? Marx defined it as the capacity of human labor to bring about usefulness. So, just as use value, when we say useful labor, we see how much of the labor has a kind of utilization in the production process, and therefore, the more the utilization of that labor, the more his value would be. So, Marx, all commodity contains useful labor. So, because all commodities are part of the production process, it cannot be that they do not have a useful labor, they are required. But it cannot exist in commodity unless the useful labor contained in them is qualitatively different. So, useful labor, Marx explains with reference to qualitative, and he says useful labor creates use value. Now, the abstract labor is, the use labor is qualitative. When we start quantifying this use labor, then it kind of becomes a quantitative measurement, and this quantitative measure becomes abstract because it is kind of a quantitative framework. Is the labor is measured in expenditure of energy quantified by time, and this he calls it as abstract labor. When he kind of gives an explanation, he explains how qualitative criteria of use labor, when it is kind of measured, it is quantified, it becomes abstract labor. All useful labor shares in common that the fact it is a psychological expenditure of energy which can be measured in units of labor time. It is called abstract because they kind of no fixed criteria in which one can measure the amount of labor put in. It is only kind of estimated, and that is why it is referred as abstract. In order then to make the transition from useful to abstract labor, an abstraction is made from all the specific qualities, skills and aims of useful labor. So, in order to kind of have an abstract value, you will kind of abstract certain kind of qualities, values in that useful labor, and only those would be kind of quantified. Abstraction forces only what is comparable in all productive labor, which is nothing but an expenditure of energy and labor time. So, the product would be have a value depending on the abstract labor of the value of the abstract labor. The abstraction focuses only on what is comparable in all productive labor, which is nothing but an expenditure of energy labor time. The measurement is arrived only in capitalist society when useful labor is measured in terms of temporal duration of labor time. This is what is the most important thing that Marx arrives at, that all labor would be useful, but in a capitalist society you start quantifying the labor of the workers with reference to a time energy framework, that how much of work is done in hours, how much of energy has been spent, which is very abstract, and therefore the kind of wage labor, when we look into the calculation of wage or we look into the calculation of piece rate, it's done in number of product that you that worker produce within a period of time. Say how much of work did you do in 8 hours, how much of pieces of product did you produce in 8 hours, and the wages would be measured according to that. So, that would actually be a calculation of the wage based on abstraction, and that is where abstraction leaves the space where a portion of the labor is not actually taken into consideration while calculating the wage, and that which is not calculated is the surplus value of the product, and it is the surplus value which is not shared with the worker, but it is appropriated by the capitalist class, and this appropriation of the surplus value which leads to the exploitation of the working class. The next concept is commodity fetishism. Now, this fetishism or what a fetish commodity, he is taking the idea from religion, from where tribal religion, which a fetish would be an object which had supernatural or say mystical power to kind of protect the community. So, in primitive society we had the concept of totem. So, totem had such supernatural or mystical power that could protect the entire community. So, here he is saying that he is taking it to understanding commodity, where he says certain commodity are attached a kind of a fetish kind of value, and therefore becomes more valuable compared to the other. So, when we say it is a fetish commodity, it implies that it displays an unusual devotion towards material thing. Certain materialistic things attached and over and above more importance than the other, in the sense that it has more capacity, or it is more capable than the other. So, he says that when individual assign extraordinary value and power to commodity which circulates in the system of exchange, he uses the term fetishism to describe the tendency in capitalism. He believed that commodities are mysterious in nature and possesses manifest power. However, this mysterious power does not arise from the use value, but from the exchange value. So, it is not the utility of the good which will determine the value, but it would be the exchange value, in the sense how much of profit it could gain for the capitalist, which will determine the value of the product. So, he says he says that the entire capitalist, the modes of production has led to commodity fetishism. Then we were talking about theory of surplus value. To understand surplus value, we must understand the concept of labor and surplus labor. So, that is how we will understand surplus value. So, what is labor or necessary labor? Necessary, as we know, useful would be the amount of work which is required for the product to be made. So, it refers to the time in a work day it takes for the worker to produce, in which the cost of his or her own maintenance. So, that is necessary labor. How much of work you can do that you will be able to get an exchange value for subsistence or for your survival. Now, what is the surplus value? The surplus labor would be the amount of work that a worker does more or above the necessary labor. So, it you can, in a working hours, it could be say 8 and 10 hours would be necessary labor, but when we kind of look into the workers, we see they are doing overtime work. And why are they doing overtime work? Because the production targets have to be met, and this production target implies that more and more product produced, the company or the capitalist would earn more and more profit. So, what is done beyond the necessary labor is the surplus labor. And Marx stated that labor is paid only for part of the work a day. So, if the work day is 8 hours, then the necessary labor is only for 4 hours, and the payment of the wage is what calculations that has been done into deciding what wage the labor would get is only on the first 4 hours, which is the necessary labor. And it is with these wages workers, or the next 4 hours, which is kind of a surplus labor, is what is actually generates the surplus value. So, the first 4 hours is the paid work, which is the necessary labor required for survival of these workers. The next 4 hours is kind of termed as unpaid work, and this is the surplus labor which produces the value for the capitalist. So, the workers are not going to get anything, though they are putting in the labor, they are not going to gain any materialistic gain from the extra work that they put in. So, in surplus labor, workers expend their labor, but they creates no value for themselves. So, it is they are putting in the labor, but it is not a value for the workers, it is only going to profit the capitalist. So, the surplus value which has been created has kind of given this difference to the capitalist to have a more economic or material base compared to the workers who are actually working for 8 hours. So, this part of the working day Marx calls surplus labor time, and to the labor expended during this time he calls as surplus value. Now, what are the attributes of surplus labor? The attributes of surplus labor is number one, it is the value created by the surplus labor of the worker. That means the worker is working beyond the necessary labor. Number two, it is unpaid and therefore creates value only for the capitalist and not for the worker. Number three, it presents a deception since it claims to be paid labor. So, the in bookkeeping or in theoretically, if one is working for 8 hours, the wage is claimed as 8 hours, but in actually he is being paid only for 4 hours. So, it is a recognized form of overwork and thus exploitation of the worker, not paid for the value that is created by their surplus labor. So, surplus value is created by the extra work done by the worker, but they cannot claim it and they are kind of denied the surplus value. Another most important concept which is very important when we look into capitalism and understand the theory of Karl Marx is the concept of alienation. Now, he gave this concept of alienation in the work called the Economic and Philosophical Manuscript, which was written in 1844. Here he says that alienation is a state where the human relation is under acute strain. His alienation, the term could in common sense says that you are isolated, you are kind of left alone. You cannot relate yourself to the space or to people who are around you. So, for Marx, it refers to a state when men get strained from the process of production. That is, you are working there, you are at a machine continuously working, but yet you cannot find yourself relating to the machine or to say anything. You are just doing it because you have got an instruction or you have certain task to do, and you so routinized monotony comes in and you are just doing it without any kind of involvement, without any kind of being a part of it. And when he says this kind of what happens is that the workers who are kind of who feels alienated, they withdraw themselves from the production process, and therefore it kind of also leads to them not also developing in their professional work. So, in a capitalist world, man owns creation does not give adequate pleasure. When the product and the process of production becomes unfavorable, there starts alienation. So, both the product, so he is not kind of getting related to the product, does not have any interest in production of that product, as well as the process of production. So, that is why the term cog in the machine, he is just kind of a part of the machine where he kind of ensures that the work is being done without any kind of involvement, with any kind of attachment, or rather he is kind of slowly and steadily gets detached from the process. So, to Marx, history of mankind is not only the history of class struggle. The class struggle, according to Karl Marx, was the struggle between the bourgeois and the proletariat in terms of the class consciousness, so that when this appropriation of the surplus value kind of becomes very acute and the workers become conscious of the labor that they are doing it, or they become conscious of the amount of appropriation they have done, there is an increase in class consciousness, and the working class then stands up in conflict with the capitalist class. This is the class struggle. So, he is saying the capitalist society, there is class struggle, and the another feature of the capitalist society which is very important when we look into the sociology of work is the concept of alienation, where the alienation is kind of increasing from the time. So, alienation is basically a problem of the labor class. It is not kind of though he will also kind of say that they experience it directly. Even the capitalist will face an alienation, but it is indirectly. Here the alienation, it is working class expresses this alienation in them. The capitalist will not be able to consciously express the level of alienation. In the capitalist economic order, when the labor is dominated or governed by his or her own creation, that gives birth to alienation. Now, he talks about two things. One is the forces of production and the relation of production. So, when we look into the alienation as a concept, working class or the labor have no control over the forces, and also the relations of production is affected. So, the forces of production refers to the technique of production, while the relation of production refers to two types. So, the relation would be the relation between employer and the employee, and the relation also the relation between the workers, the co-workers. So, there has to be a cordial relation between the employer and the employee, as well as the workers among themselves. So, alienation starts when the relation, particularly the vertical relation, that is the relation between the employer and the employee. The cordial co-worker relation would be another kind of a relation. So, the vertical relation between the employer and the employee comes to a saturation point. So, the capitalists are not concerned about the work conditions of the workers, and the workers themselves have no say in the production process. So, they withdraw from the production process, and therefore, the vertical relation becomes absent. There is no relation between the two. When he talks about alienation, he tells us about 4 types of alienation. So, one is from the product, because the workers have no control over what product is being done. Process of production, because they do not have control over the forces of production, means of production, therefore, they are cut out from the process. From the community, because there is no a relation, social relation is not being established between the employer and the employee, they start not being a part of that community or not being a part of that workplace. And the alienation at the level is that slowly and slowly the worker gets alienated from oneself as well. So, this level of alienation, it becomes so problematic that there is complete detachment from the work and the workspace. He also talks about in terms of how alienation would slowly and slowly lead to the level of class consciousness, and ultimately where they becomes conscious about themselves. But alienation and isolation would have a negative impact on the workers and the working class, because it reduces their sense of belonging, it reduces the sense of being motivated to work more, and therefore, their conditions would remain same. So, this is whole understanding of his idea of theory of value, his commodity fetishism, alienation. Through these concepts, he helps us to understand the nature of work in capitalist society. With this, I come to an end of today's lecture. Thank you.